Hey, what's up everybody? So here is the full recap of the Stagecoach 100. I'm going to tell you my story about the race. Yes, I did finish. I'm not going to like make you hang on till the end to hear if I finished or not. Like, I'm stoked. Just wanted to, like, I'm stoked. But I'm just going to tell you like the play-by-play, and then at the end for like all you trail running nerds who want to hear about like the nerdy stuff of behind the run, like my nutrition plan, if it worked, if it didn't, like my hydration, my lubing, if I chafed or not, if I taped anything, what I taped, shoes, socks, vest, everything that I used or ate, drank along the way. I'll go over that at the very end. And just because I'm sure like there's going to be something in there, like one little nugget that will probably help somebody, if not you, with their first or next 100 or ultra, or might inspire you to do it, because I learned a lot on this race, and stuff that I have learned from my previous attempts that I applied to this one just changed and just made it possible. So again, just everybody, like, rethink possible. There's nothing that I don't think you can't do if you just put enough work and effort into it. I gotta get some stuff out of the way real quick, because this is going to be posted on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If you don't know that I have YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook, they're all linked below with some of the products that I'm going to be talking about at the end of the video. And then because this is on YouTube and they have special rules, that I do have to let you know that I am affiliated and partnered with some of the products. And if for some reason you click on one of those links and buy something on their website, I do get a little kickback. So I just want to say thank you. Right up front, because it does help, because my sponsor is me, myself, and I. And if you're an ultra runner, you know that this sport really isn't cheap, even though it's running and people think running is cheap. So with that out of the way, let's get into the story. But first and foremost, I want to give a couple shout outs to people who just really like have been behind me and supported me and made this all possible, just because I can't and couldn't do it without you. And some of you might not even know how you impacted me, so I just want to say thank you. So first off, Jesus you all know that I believe in Jesus, and I believe that He is the reason why I have this desire and has given me the ability to do stuff like this. And you have no idea how much I ended up talking to Him along the race. And if you've ever run a 100-mile race, I'm sure you've talked to Him too, whether you believe in Him or not. Number two is Jessica, my wife. Like, if you know Jessica, you know what she's about and what she's made of. If you don't, she is just, she was my only support crew for this race. Lots of times people go out here with the whole team, pacers, multiple crew members. Jessica did it all. And this being a point-to-point race from Flagstaff to the Grand Canyon, she had to drive 70 miles on backcountry, back forest roads, navigating all by herself and trying to figure out through the rain, through the mud, and still being there for me when I hit my lows, and just doing everything that I needed and didn't even know that I needed. So just thank you so much for that, Jess. Number three, Zach and Kurt, my running buddies. If you follow me on Instagram, you well know who Zach and Kurt are. I've been out there almost every weekend during this whole training cycle, doing mountain peaks, desert runs, just runs around our house. Just this training cycle was so much fun because of you guys, and I'm sure the feeling is mutual, and I'm cheering you on as much as you cheered me on. So just thanks to you two. I'm stoked that we get to do this together. Number four, somebody who probably doesn't even think that they helped me, but that's Taylor Spike. If you don't know Taylor Spike, he is just a super established ultra runner, and we ended up being able to meet each other and start running together when he visits out here by where I live. And we even surfed together, which was just a super, super cool thing. But he's inspired me just more than ways one. Just not only running, but just being consistent, being a good person, good father, husband, and just like everything that he shares on his Instagram. So if you aren't following Taylor on his Instagram, go and give him a follow, because one of the way he inspired me the most through this whole training thing was after I DNF'd last November at the Machete Madness 100. He made a post, and it wasn't even directed towards me. It was just something I read that he just put out there one day, and it was just this one little sentence that it doesn't matter. Nobody cares how long it takes. They just care that you got it done. And that just like kind of hit home to me after that race, because I was putting like more pressure on myself to like do good than actually finish, which was the wrong attitude and the wrong mindset when it comes to these like ultra efforts. So I'll get more into that like later when I just that statement, that sentence helped me like later in this race. Like, it doesn't matter, just get it done. So I just want to say thanks, Taylor, for just putting yourself out there and just being an example for people to follow and just look up to. And last but not least is Keith and Debbie, and I'm not going to say too much about them right now. You're going to learn a bunch about them in the race because we met them out there and just ended up being just a really cool experience, just being able to meet those two. So let's get on with the recap. I know you're probably thinking like, hurry up, Eric, like get all that stuff out of the way. But here it is. So first I want to start with like why did I pick this race. So if you were following me on Strava or Instagram or anything like that, you saw that I hurt my knee like earlier, like around Easter time, and I recently only Divide 50, and it really just aggravated my knee to where I couldn't run anymore. I didn't run for 9 weeks, and that was the longest time I haven't run in probably a couple years. But I did want to get another attempt at a 100-mile race this year before it started getting too cold in winter and like holidays and all that stuff too. So I was just like, man, like, am I gonna get a chance or not? So I had my eye on this race and was just like hoping that I could get healthy enough to do it, because I was looking for a 100-mile race that didn't have a ton of elevation change, like a ton of climbing, because I knew like in the time frame I could probably get ready like fitness wise for the distance, but if it had a ton of climbing, like there was no way I could get like my legs back in time. So luckily enough, my knee got better. It gave me like a good 12-week block to train for the race, and because I had maintained my fitness like through mountain biking and hiking around with Jess while my knee was healing, that like my aerobic base was there. I just had to get my running legs back and my hiking legs back. So that's when Kurt and Zach like just really helped, because we spent so many days in the mountains. Like there were slow days hiking around, like summiting. I think one day we summited like 6 mountain peaks in one day around Mount Baldy, which was just an epic day. But it got those muscles back, which really helped me like later in the race, which like I'll explain later, because these trails just got brutal. And I noticed how I was doing a lot better than some of the other people out there, because I had those hiking skills back, which I needed. Okay, so I picked this race also because I wanted it was like a little vacation for Jessica and I to get away by ourselves together. Just me and her went out there. We went out there 2 days early. So the first day we planned to go and hike around the Grand Canyon, which just ended up being so much fun. Like if you've been to the Grand Canyon, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, there's no words that can describe that place. So we spent, I think 6 hours hiking around the Grand Canyon, and went down a trail and up, and just like it was just super cool. And then the next day, the whole goal was to drive the race course. And the reason why we wanted to drive the race course is because, like I said, she was my only crew. It was just her. She wanted to know as much as I wanted her to know where the aid stations were, so she wouldn't get lost in the middle of the night or anything like that when it got thick, right? So ended up driving the course, and she was taking notes the whole time, like, because some of the directions were kind of confusing, but the race director did the best job he could with, given the details of the course, because like I said, it was like forest roads, and just some of the road signs were there, some of the road signs weren't, some of them were just mile markers, or like identifying things that you had to look for to know where to turn. And so like one of her notes that she made was like turn right at the for sale sign, because the road sign, the forest road sign, was missing. So stuff like that. And so we ended up driving out, and we're back, trying to find this one aid station that was on this dirt road. And one of the instructions that I missed during this whole thing until we started reading the driving directions the day of was 4-wheel drive vehicles recommended, because some of these roads were pretty bad. I mean, you could do it, but just having the security of knowing that I have 4-wheel drive in case it got bad, which it ended up doing like during the race because it started raining and started getting like super muddy. I'm sure she felt a lot more comfortable being in my truck too. So, but we were out there driving around and we noticed that this other truck was doing the same thing we were doing. We saw him following us and then turning to some of the places we were, and then we ended up like, running into each other at this one aid station stop and just ended up chatting. It ended up being Keith and Debbie. They were out from Illinois. He was here to do the race, and Debbie, his wife, was his only crew. So just like me and Jess, Keith and Debbie were doing the exact same thing. But we thought that was like the extent of our meeting at that. Just like, oh cool, good luck to you. Maybe we'll see you tomorrow. So that night, we finished our scouting expedition, get back to our camp, and get everything ready for the race. All my running stuff, my shoes, my vest, like pre-packed bottles, pre-filled bottles, get all the nutrition, like itemize, go over everything again with Jessica, like at this mile I want this mile I want this, if this starts happening I might want this, if I start feeling this way I might this, and like all the stuff that if you're an ultra runner, that just this different scenarios that kind of play out. So we're just going over all that and then set everything up on our campsite bench and hit the sack, knowing that I was going to wake up at 3:45 in the morning, go take a shower, get dressed while she was getting the truck ready for like her job as the crew and putting it all together the way she wanted, so she knew where it was. Well, about 1:50 in the morning, she starts elbowing me and wakes me up, and she's like, "It's raining." I was like, "So?" She's like, "Your stuff's outside." I was like, "Oh no." And so we both get up in the middle of the night in our underwear. It's 40 degrees outside, raining cold in the middle of our camp, and started throwing my running stuff into the truck to keep it dry and everything else that wasn't too important just underneath the truck so it wouldn't get like soaked. And we get back into bed maybe a little bit after 2 o'clock now, and we just kind of start dozing off listening to the sound of the rain on my truck because we're sleeping in the back of my truck with the camper shell. And then about 2:30, the biggest lightning and thunderstorm that I've ever heard happens, like ever heard. And it's not just because I live in California. You think you don't, I've been back east. Jessica's family, dad and sisters live back east in Arkansas, and we've been through some storms back there where the thunder shook the house. Well, this thunder shook my truck so loud and so hard that I thought my windows cracked, and from then on, sleep was out of the question. So I was pretty much up from 1:50 in the morning all the way until Sunday night, which I went to bed about 8 o'clock. So I was up for about 38 hours. I think that's about the math. And Jessica, yes, she did get some cat naps here and there, during the race, but she was up pretty much the whole time too. So Saturday morning, packed up now, showered, all that, and dressed, start heading into Flagstaff, and we pull into the race parking, and who do we park next to? Keith and Debbie. What are the odds of this, So Keith and I start chatting up about the race, Debbie and Jessica start chatting up about whatever their crewing stuff they're going to, and we just continue talking, getting ready for the race, not really thinking much more other than that. And then also I got to meet this other guy, Mark, who had been training for the 55K. It was his first ultra marathon, so he was super stoked. He was a member of My Endurance Life. If you don't know, it's an online running community that I lead and just help inspire people in any way I can, whether it's through coaching or just bringing other people on board to help show and teach about ultra running. But he was there, and I got to help, or not help, but meet him, meet his wife, and just it's super cool to meet people from just the running world, especially the My Endurance Life community, because it's we're just all regular people doing just above average things, and it's just good job, Mark, on your race too. So race starts, and I purposely line up in the back. I wanted to start as far back in last place as possible, strategically, because I did not want to get caught up in the people who were racing the 55K, because they're going to be running a lot harder than any of the 100 milers, and I didn't want to get just caught up with the front 100 milers either, because I've started at the front of a 100-mile race and those people run, and I did not want to run at the very beginning, because we start up with a, I don't know, like 14 or 1500 foot climb, and then at elevation, so we like around 9,000 feet, and then start like descending down. But I just wanted to hike it out and just start my race super slow from the back. So that's what I did, and it worked out perfect, like perfect. And I was just like stoked. Got to talk to people, just taking the scenery. Like one of the, like the Flagstaff was just a beautiful, beautiful place. And because of the rain and the temperatures, all the mountains were covered in snow now. So it was like we got snow-capped peaks, pine trees, looking out over like Flagstaff, and we're on the Arizona Trail now. So we're just, and the trails there are just like some of the best dirt I've ever got to hike or run on, and just I can't wait to like go back and just have like a running vacation through Flagstaff. But 4 or 5 miles into it, who do I end up catching is Keith, and he's doing the same thing I do, just hiking it out. And so we ended up running together for the next 5 or 6 miles to the first aid station, which is like mile 10, I think, right now. And I meet up with Jessica. He keeps running to meet up with Debbie, and I thought at the time like that was the extent of our running together. So Jess and I meet. She has my egg burrito waiting for me. We continue like walking together for about half a mile, get to the truck, refill my water bottles, and then I head out to the next aid station, which is called Kelly Tank. Meanwhile, we're all still along the Arizona Trail, so it's just, we're still at elevation, snow-capped mountains, just beautiful, right? And just another reason why I was stoked on this race is just to look at that, see parts of the country that I haven't seen yet. Like, how cool is it to say that you ran from Flagstaff to the Grand Canyon? Like, it just sounds cool. So continue running, and this is all downhill. So it's about a 30-mile downhill section now that we're on. So I'm just cruising. In the back of my mind, I had like this goal, unspoken goal that I didn't tell anybody other than Jessica, and she really didn't even know like the time goal, just like times to be where she needed to be if I stayed on track. And then I was like looking at my watch and just cruising, like, wow, I'm not even trying and I'm staying on this goal, like it might happen. So that was cool. And then about 2 miles from the next aid station, who do I bump into again? It's Keith. So we run the next 2 miles into the aid station, just chatting it up, just about how beautiful everything is, how neat the course is, the weather, like couldn't ask for anything better. Like the race started about 40 degrees, and then right now it was probably about 10 o'clock in the morning, and it was hovering around 60, which is just perfect running weather. So go to the aid station, do my thing with Jessica, fill up my water bottles, eat, head back out for the next, I won't see her again for another 10 miles, and head back out on the Arizona Trail, and still on just easy meandering, like downhill. Like there's some rolling hills, but for the most part it's downhill. And off in the distance we see this thunderstorm rolling in. So I was running next to this other guy, and like jokingly but like seriously, I was like, man, I hope I'm slow enough to like let that pass through, because that looks brutal. And like we know the people up ahead of us are just getting like drenched. So for the most part we were slow enough, but we still got hit by a lot of it. Not like the pouring rain, but we had to run through like the aftermath of it, like the soupy mud. When this dirt got wet, it just turned like this soupy paste and like stuck to your feet, clogged your shoes, and so it's like your shoes just became super heavy and clogged and slippery too if you like tried to run. So a lot of the section, probably 5 of the 10 miles I had to like kind of like slippery slide, walk, hike, run through. And then it got a little bit rockier, and I was able to like pick my way through the rocks because the rocks weren't slippery. So I was able to like pick up a little bit of time there, but moving slower than I anticipated, which ended up being a blessing in disguise too, because it just slowed me down. And I can't stress enough like in how many times I've been told, but just really you have to be disciplined enough to go slow and just like let it happen. And so that's what I was just like, okay, this is happening for a reason. I'm just gonna go with it. If that time goal happens, great. If not, like big deal. Like, hey, this weather obviously is out of my control. There's nothing I can do about it, and I wasn't gonna take a chance of like falling in the mud to just stay on my time goal. But lo and behold, I was, without even trying. I was still on that time goal. So I was just like super stoked on that. Get to the Cedar Tank aid station, and Jessica's there. This is now the 55K finish line. So all the 55Kers are done. They're all getting their medals and all that. Meet with Jessica. And I see her and Debbie talking, and I guess they'd been talking at the aid stations here and there and trying to park next to each other, just like a sense of security knowing where each other were. I hadn't seen Keith yet. I thought he was in front of me the whole time, but I guess he was behind me now, and so Debbie was waiting for Keith. And so Mark had already finished his race, so he came up, and we congratulated each other. He wished me well. I said, told him awesome job on his 55K, and then headed out for the next segment, which was 10 or 12 miles. I don't remember, but it was another like rolling, meandering, like kind of pretty much flat section with a small 1 or 2 mile like climb out to the last aid station. And I felt great. The same thing, like, I was eating when I needed to eat, drinking when I needed to drink. Yes, I had already run 30 miles, so my legs felt like I had already run, 35 or 36 miles now. But like all in all, I was still having a great day. Spirits were high, just super stoked. Climb up this hill to the last aid station, and by now, like, not intentionally, but I had started passing people, and so that like every time you pass someone, but in an ultra, like they'll probably pass you back. But it was just like every time you pass them, it was like just like a little boost of confidence. Like, okay, cool, just you're doing good. Get to this aid station, and then it was about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So I knew by the time I got to the next one, like the sun would be going down, it'd be getting dark. So I took my warmer clothes with me, took my headlight. Ate there. My stomach was still doing good, so I was really pumped on that, and headed out. And this was the longest break in between aid stations. It was 14 miles. So Jess knew that I probably wouldn't see her for about 4 hours, I think was like the estimated time, from the time I left that to which was the boundary aid station, which was the most important aid station because you're getting there in the dark, it's getting cold. It's the most remote aid station, so it's going to take the longest time for her to get there. Remember, it was raining, so she had to drive these dirt roads. You should have seen my truck. It was covered in mud. She hit this big mud puddle. It just covered the truck in mud. But anyways, she did a great job. She got there well ahead of me, and then about 4 miles before getting to the boundary. So the first 10 miles just went off excellent. Got to watch the sunset, passed a couple more people, just cruising, like not even trying to run hard. I think I was averaging, like, because it was flat, like a 12-minute mile or something like that. So just cruising, but I had been eating these chews all day long, and they were like, for the most part, they were good. They were doing their job. I could eat them, but I changed the flavor of my electrolyte to a sweeter flavor, and combined like the sweet chews and the sweet flavor electrolyte just really upset my stomach. I came into the boundary aid station just feeling so bad and thinking like, oh my gosh, like not again. Just like, I don't want an upset stomach like this early in the race. It was mile 56 at this point, and like, yes, 56 miles is a long ways, but in 100, like, it's still early in the race, and it's just like, man, like, I wish it would have happened earlier so I could have gotten over it and feel better now, or just not happen at all. But hey, it's one of those things. So I she made me some chicken noodle soup, couldn't do it. I tried to drink a little bit of Coke, couldn't do it. And just, I was sitting in that chair and was thinking to myself, like, man, you can either feel bad sitting in this chair, or you can feel bad out on the trail moving forward. So I got up, said, I'm just gonna feel bad moving forward. And so I head out, and then on my way out, I passed Keith, and he's like, man, how's it going? I was like, dude, just like my stomach, like, just, you'll probably catch me, And so he's like, okay, just, best of luck, and, we'll see you out there. So this next section, I don't remember any of it. There was one aid station in between that Jessica couldn't get to. It was just the race volunteers who were at this aid station. I don't remember how far it was or anything like that, because I was so tired. I left the Boundary aid station just exhausted, and I was like sleepwalking, sleep running, just pretty much bouncing off of trees, and just I like not hallucinating, like, you know how you hear of ultra runners hallucinating, but just like, man, like I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm so tired. I can't keep my eyes open. Like, if you've ever been driving and you look back behind you and be like, I don't remember if that light was red or green, you know, just in a daze. That's how I was running. Like, I don't remember getting to that next aid station. But I do remember at the aid station they had cuties and they had Coke. And I ate a handful of cuties, probably 5 or 6, and had a little half shot of a Dixie cup of Coke. And that totally just shifted me, got me moving again. And from that point on, like, I did not get sleepy tired like that again for the rest of the night, which was amazing. Because I was like, man, it's only like 8 or 9 o'clock now. How am I ever going to make it through the rest of this race being this tired? So, with that out of the way, the next section was like, I think it was like 9 miles I had to go before I saw Jessica again. So I was like running on fumes, but like with a good like mindset, knowing that, okay, I just got to chip away at this, chip away at this, chip away at this, and I'll eventually get to Jessica, knowing that my stomach's feeling better and I can eat again. But lo and behold, the trail got so technical, like so rocky, like running for me kind of got out of the question. So I was able to like power hike. I was able to power hike like a good pace, and run a 16-minute mile like hiking, up and down. Like again, like we're starting to like gradually like climb back up to the Coconino Rim, which is above 7,000 feet again. So we're like gradually like 6,200 feet, 6,400 feet, and so on and so on. But now the sun's coming down, and it's getting cold now, and I can hike. So I just continue doing that, but like I said, like the trail got so technical and so like rocky. It was almost like somebody took golf ball and baseball size like jacks, like kids play with, like jacks, and threw them out on the trail, and you had to run through that and over that. And I just remembered like every step how bad the bottom of my feet hurt, like the balls of my feet from stepping on them, and just feeling like so bruised. So I get to the next aid station, which is called Russell Tank, and this place is pumping. They got music, people are dancing, they got a big fire. Jessica's waiting for me, so I come in like still in high spirits but really hungry, and so I like start singing along with like the people who were like at the like where the trail enters the aid station. Like I don't remember the song, but it was a good song. They had good music going on. Jessica grabs me, we go over to to my truck. She starts doing the water, changing my water bottles, and she asked, well, what do you want? I was like, well, I want soup. And then I was like, what do the aid station have? And she's like, they got hamburgers. You want a hamburger? I was like, yeah, I'll take a hamburger. So while I'm drinking my soup, she goes and gets a little like bite-sized hamburger for me. And then meanwhile, I'm like changing clothes. So I'm like changing and putting on my warmer pants, my different jacket, and then she's doing me a favor by keeping my gloves warm, because it's super cold. It's like 40 degrees or below right now. So she's warming up my gloves so I have nice warm gloves before I head back out. And then she's like, oh my gosh, I melted your gloves. And I was like, okay, it's all right. Like, I'll be fine. But like my running gloves were melted. But anyways, left out, high spirits, was able to eat, left. And then I saw Debbie, and so her truck started right as I was passing her, so I thought Keith was in front of me. So I was just like, okay, cool, I'm gonna try to catch Keith. So head back out, next section, running, trying to like, but it's still super rocky, super technical. So I was like, if there was a section where there was no rocks, I would run. If there was a section where there was rocks, I would hike. And just, that was kind of like my routine, like run, hike throughout. And then, so the next aid station was called Coconino Rim, and it was another uncrewed aid station where it was just the volunteers there. But I remember getting close to it that there was a specific set of race directions that the race director like stressed, do not miss this turn. And I couldn't remember if the race director said go down this steep hill or do not go down this steep hill. And one of the signs said bike bypass, because during the day, so this race had four different races going on. They had a mountain bike race, which started ahead of us. So the mountain bikes were always ahead of us, but they were on the same course. They had a 100-mile relay race. So it was groups of people running together, you know, trading off at every aid station, and then a different runner would run the 100 miles. They had the 55K, which had ended earlier, and then us, the 100-mile solo runners. So I couldn't remember, like, is this sign just for the bikes and the runners go down the hill or what? So I ended up standing there for like 10 minutes just trying to get enough service on my phone to bring up the race directions so I could read them. Luckily I did, and it said, do not go down the steep hill. So I'm glad I didn't do that. So ran on the bike bypass, got to the crude aid station, the Coconino Rim aid station, and these people were just amazing. It was just a husband and wife, just two people out there all by themselves, and they had pizza, quesadillas, two other things I can't remember, 3 kinds of soup, Coke, electrolytes. Like, they were on it, and they had the Rocky soundtrack going. So I walked in like right as Eye of the Tiger was going through. It was just an awesome aid station. So if you guys ever see this, just like, I don't know your names, but just you guys pumped, like, you were rad. And they had like all the, just decorated with all these lights and these funny signs leading in and leading out, just like, you know, just making fun of ultra runners about why we're doing this stupid sport. So, but, and like blisters and chafing, just like tongue-in-cheek stuff that if you run, you know what I'm talking about. So anyways, left them super high, super stoked, and head out. And this, if the first section of rocks wasn't bad, this next section was just 5 times worse, to where I don't think I ran at all for like the next 8 miles to where I saw Jessica again. Because like I said, jacks on concrete. And by now, like, the bottom of my feet, the balls of my feet, the soles of my feet were so bruised from stepping on these things that, like, I could not wait to change my shoes. I was thinking, like, I got a pair of shoes, you know, in the truck with a rock plate on it. Like, I'm gonna put those on, like, just because how am I, at this point it was like, I think 70 miles into the race, I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do another 30 miles with my feet hurting this bad. Like, the rest of me feels fine, like, but I'm just getting, it's making me so exhausted just looking where I have to step and trying to, like, pick my way through these rocks, and I'm going so slow, and then you start thinking about all these things, like, I'm gonna be out here forever and ever and ever. And so, like, now I'm realizing, like, that unspoken time goal isn't gonna happen. So I'm like, shoot, like, so I, like, immediately, like, as soon as I saw that, like, I got really bummed, and I was like, but then, like, boom, that quote from Taylor, like, nobody cares how long it takes, they just care that you got it done. And I was like, yeah, like, dope, like, who cares? Like, that's just a superficial number. Like, you're not winning anything. Like, you don't get anything by going faster or killing yourself trying to do it. Just finish what you committed to. And so that totally just like, okay, I'm just gonna, whatever it takes to get to the end, like, I'm gonna do that. So this was another, like, it was taking longer than I expected, you know, just because I was hiking so much. And at one point, like a couple days before, I had set in my phone like a motivational reminder at 4 a.m. I just said, like, I gave myself just something I knew I needed to hear to keep me going. But for some reason my phone went off like an hour and a half early with that reminder, but it said 4 a.m. reminder. So I'm thinking, like, oh my gosh, it's 4 in the morning already and I'm not to that aid station? Like, there's cutoffs. Like, I'm not going to make the next cutoff. If I don't make that cutoff, like, what's the next cutoff to the finish line? And it just started, like, running scared. I started running, and I started running so fast, and I was like, there's no way I'm not going to make this race. I'm not going to finish. And I don't know how I did it, but I started running, like, 10-minute miles, like, up and down these trails and up and down these hills. And I ended up catching these 2 guys, and they're like, wow, like, there's, like, I don't know what they thought because I passed them so fast. And then, I don't know why, but I changed the screen on my watch to see what time it was, and it was still 3 in the morning. And I was like, what? Like, I thought I got my 4 o'clock reminder like a half an hour ago, and it's only 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, I got plenty of time. But it just like it just like struck a chord. Like, if you want something bad enough, there's still stuff there to give. And it was just like, that proved to myself that I want this bad enough that I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get to the finish line. And so ended up making it to the next aid station, which was Whole Cabin, where you have to run down this steep road to get to this cabin in the middle of nowhere. And it was freezing here. It had to be below 40, in the 30 degrees. So Jessica's there. I check in and check out with the aid station, and then go sit in my chair, because I told her, like, I need to change my shoes. My feet hurt so bad. So I told her what pair of shoes I wanted, and then also what I wanted to eat, what I wanted to drink. And I was like, I'm gonna close my eyes for 8 minutes and then wake me up. So like that, like, I was out, and then she was waking me back up, and she had my food ready so I could eat a little bit. It's not like my stomach was bugging me now, but I was just like so tired that I just like, I could only nibble on stuff. And so I think I had another shot of Coke too, which really helped. So changed my shoes. I didn't, like I said, I was so cold, and since my gloves were melted, I had to go to like my backup pair of gloves, which were like these like mitten things, and they were just too warm. So I ended up like giving those back and just heading out. And so now this other guy that just was parked next to us, he was obviously an ultra runner too, just motivated. I was just doing his best, like, get his guys out there. And then he just like looked over and said, "Hey dude, you've been sitting down a long time, just, you know, get out of here." And so I was like, "Yep, you're right, like, you know, let's get going." So ended up hiking up this hill, and this is where all that training that I did in the mountains, that I started just paying off. So if you ever second guess about like hills pay the bills. If you've been around my endurance life for any length of time, you've heard me say that. And this is just proof in the pudding that, like, I don't think you can get enough hill work in, especially for ultra running, no matter how flat the course is. Because this hill, in the grand scheme of things, was really nothing, you know. But at 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning or whatever time it was I left that aid station, it felt like Mount Everest, you know. But I was able to just keep a really good, consistent, like, effort up this hill, and like leave these other guys in the dust, and I didn't even feel like I was working that hard. And new shoes, warm clothes, a little something in my belly. And the guy before, I think he had run the race. The guy who like told me, like, "You've been sitting here long enough, like, get up and go." I think he had run the race before, because he said, like, "Hey, this next section of trail is like buttery smooth compared to that last stuff. So like, the sun's gonna be coming up, you're gonna be able to run again, like, it's a whole new day." And like, sure enough, like, as soon as we get to the top of that first climb, like, you can see like the sun start coming up over the horizon, not risen, but just like up enough to like start lighting the trail. And then just like, yes, there's barely any rocks, and like, it became what I felt like just like ice skating, you know. So I was able to run. And then leading into this, I haven't said this yet, but like, I had one goal, like one real goal that I really had stuck to the entire race, and it started to work like right now. One strategic goal, I should say, and that was, I had heard a podcast with Carl Meltzer on it, and Carl Meltzer is a speed goat, if you ever heard of him. Super famous ultra runner. But he said his pacing strategy through like all of his races is to go slow enough to where he can run the last 20 miles. Even though we're completely different athletes with completely different capabilities, that pacing strategy can work for everybody. And so I applied it to me, knowing that I want to be able to run the last 20 miles. And so no matter what, no matter how good I was feeling, like earlier in the day or in the middle when I was hiking, I was still always holding back with the intent of being able to run that last 20 miles. And so this was it. I had 18 miles left from that aid station to the finish line. So 6 and then 12. And so I was like, I'm running it. Any place where there's not a hill that I can't run, I'm running it. And so I was able to run like 4 of that next 6 miles. And I started passing people. Because that was one of the things he said too, is like, you're going to start passing people. And every time you pass someone, it's going to be like this little like burst of motivation, like knowing like I'm doing better than them. I'm doing better than them, because the last 20 miles is when the death march starts. And these people are just, I mean, they're giving everything they got, but they got nothing left because they left it all out on the course earlier. So they're just like walking, heads down, just like miserable, just trying everything they can to get to the finish line. And here I am, able to run, and I'm starting to like not blow by them, but just gradually just pass and keep gaining on them. And so it was just a surreal experience. And so get down to the next aid station, the sun's up, it is freezing here. Jessica said my truck's at 33 degrees. So remember, I don't have gloves. So my hands, I walk into this camp like under my vest, under my shirt, trying to keep my hands warm. But the sun's up, so I knew it was going to eventually get warmer. But everything had changed. I was hungry again, so I had asked Jess for a mashed potato burrito. Had a mashed potato burrito. I don't know what else I ate or drank, but just like I knew that I ate enough to where I really don't need to eat again, just as long as I can drink to get me to the finish line. This is enough to get me, and I can run. I'm stoked right now, and I'm only realistically 2 hours behind my overall like best time goal that I had set for myself. And I was thinking like, if I run this thing out, I can still finish under 28 hours. Because the course had ended up running long. It actually, I'll get to it, but I ended up running 104.3 miles in under 28 hours, which I'm stoked on for myself, which I'm just really just super, super happy. So head out. The trail's the same, super nice to run on, and I just start like booking it, like what I felt was fast. I think I was running like an 11-minute mile. Some areas I felt like a 10-minute mile, but it felt like I was running like a 6 or 7-minute mile. But I was running, and I ended up passing. So in those 18 miles that I was able to run, I was able to pass 8 or 9 more people, and I didn't get passed by anybody, which was just like, I don't know how to describe that feeling. Like maybe it's just a personal feeling for me, but it was every time I passed somebody, I started looking ahead to getting the next person. Can I catch one more person? Can I catch one more person? So that made me just like dig deeper and dig deeper and dig deeper to keep running. Because, dude, my legs were spent. There was nothing left in them. And then so this last section was 12 miles. About halfway into it, my Achilles just flared up, like hurt so bad. Every step just was agonizing. And I was running and like just my head down, just like staring. And remember, like I said before, like it was a bike race. So I was just following like the bike tire marks in the trail. And I didn't know that the bikers missed a turn. I was just following their bike tire trail. And I ended up going up this road and thinking like, this doesn't seem right. There's no way they would send bikes up this. Like, they can't ride it. Like, I'm having to, like, stair step up this stuff. And I was like, when's the last time I saw a course marker? I was like, I don't know. So I turn around and start walking back. And it's just, like, kind of, like, just really bummed, like, thinking, like, I don't know how far I'm off course. All that time I spent running, trying to pass these people was wasted now. But then I was like, no, just run it, Eric. Just run it. You can run. Just run back down this hill, find out where you missed your turn, and get on it again. And so, as I'm coming out and finding the turn that I missed, everybody I just passed is getting there. So I pass them again, and they're like, "Where'd you go?" And I was like, "The wrong way." And they're like, "How far?" I was like, "I don't know, maybe a mile or two." And so, but anyways, I keep running, and pass a couple more people, keep running. Now the sun's coming up, it's getting warmer, and I'm starting to, sweat, and I'm almost out of water, but I keep running, and every step, my ankle is just, it hurts so bad. I was like, I want to say crying, but like grunting, like with pain every step, but just like, I can do it. I'm gonna finish under 28 hours. Like, I can do it. And then finally, like the last about mile and a half, I couldn't do it anymore. So I ended up walking about a mile and a quarter of the last mile and a half of the race, just because I couldn't run anymore. And walking, hiking, like every step hurt. Every step hurt. Then, you know, the race is finishing, and like I know like I'm gonna finish now. I get onto the this last little like bike trail, paved bike trail, which is less than a mile to the finish line, and just like everything starts like hitting me. Everything that I've been through for the past day and for the last 26 hours or 27 hours or so, all the training I've been through, everything that's happened over the last year, the DNFs, just how much I wanted to finish, and just it was all coming it was just real. Crest up over this last little hill, you can see the finish line and you start hearing the people. So I start running again and just cross that finish line, and it was just like Jessica's there, and the same thing happened then that's happening now. And just not so much that I'm proud of myself, that I'm just proud that I stayed true to something I really wanted. So that's my story, the Stagecoach 100. Hope it inspires you to get out there and do something that you might not think that you can do. Alright, well, sorry about that. So now for all you trail nerds and going over the nutrition plan, so here's all the stuff that I used during the race, a couple of the things that worked for me, that didn't work for me, if I do it again or not. So first, I had all my training runs going up to this had been strategic, learning about like different things that I want to eat, if they're going to work for me or not. From like race nutrition to real food, like California rolls to these peanut butter and jelly like crepe things, just all sorts of things. Like Kurt and Zach, when they were running with me, like they laugh now, but like all my runs were based around food, and like not waiting to be able to get back to like our makeshift aid station or our truck if we're doing like a loop, or just even out on these like long adventures with like different stuff that I had brought in to eat and test, and just like being excited to eat. So the first aid station, Jessica pre-made an egg and cheese burrito for me. So that was aid station number 1. And every about 20 or 30 minutes, I would eat a couple honey stringer or goo chews, watermelon flavor, or I forget what the honey stringer ones were. But I knew I liked them, and I knew I could eat those for a long time. And then in between, like leading up to an aid station, I would have one gel, a goo gel, whether it was a chocolate, salted caramel, or vanilla. Like those were the 3 flavors that I liked. So every 20 or 30 minutes, I would pop a couple, 5 or 6 of the goo or honey stringer chews. A mile or 10 minutes before an aid station, I would have a gel, and then I would have whatever food I had asked Jessica to make for me. So aid station number 1 was a egg and cheese burrito. Okay, from there on, same routine. Chews, gel, and then the next aid station was California rolls. After that, same routine. Gel, goo, California rolls. After that, same routine. Chews. By this time, I was over gels just because they were taking me too long to get down. Not because they were like making my stomach sick, but I was just really getting tired of eating them. So this one gel took me like half an hour just to like squeeze. And because it was a gel pack, it's not like I could put it away like the chews and come back to it later. I had to finish it because I didn't want to get like that gooey gel in my vest or on my shorts where I was keeping my trash. So I stopped eating gels around mile 40 something, 45 or something like that. Next aid station, same routine, but minus the gels, the chews. And this is where I mentioned earlier that I switched my electrolyte flavor, and this is where my stomach got upset. So I ended up not eating at all. And then like as I played out the rest of the course, or the race, now Coke and cuties, but real food really came into play. And just I'm so glad that that mashed potato burrito at the very end, I was able to get down and just really fuel me to the end. Okay, as far as like my shoes and my socks went, I ran in the Topo Pursuit ones for 70 or 80 miles. I had the Topo Pursuit 2s, but I just couldn't either get them broken in time for the race, or they're just too stiff. I haven't decided if I like them or not, but I had those. That was what I was really hoping to run in, is the Pursuit 2s, but they just weren't comfortable enough for me to run 100 miles in. So I had a backup pair of Pursuit 1s that had maybe had a couple 100 miles in them, but still good enough to run. So wore those, and those were the shoes that ended up just being killing my feet, or at the very end. And it wasn't just because of shoes. I think it was just because of the terrain. So, but I had made a sock change. So I didn't use any lube or any tape on my feet for the whole race. The only reason I didn't do this, because I usually did do this for my ultras, as I tape and lube them, but I didn't do this because I didn't do any training runs at all this time, whether it's a 10-hour day in the mountains or a 6-hour run around my neighborhood. Any of my long runs, I did not lube or tape my feet at all. I just wore my Injinji toe socks, and it worked out fantastic. I don't have one blister at all for running 104 miles and doing a lot of hiking too, because usually when you start hiking it tears up the back of your heels. But I changed socks at mile 35, which was the end of the 55K, because my feet got wet from that race. I changed them again at mile 40 something. No, I changed them again at mile 56 because I just got a lot of dust. The trail was super dusty and I could feel like just that dryness in there. So I changed and washed my feet at mile 56, or changed my socks at mile 56, and then I changed my socks again at mile 80, just because my feet were cold and I wanted a thicker pair of socks. So I washed my feet off again and always got the dust off, and changed my socks again at mile 80. Then I changed my socks again at mile 12, just because I wanted to be super fresh leading into the end of the race. But I changed my shoes at mile 82 and went into the Topo Ultra Venture 3s, just because they're a little bit more cushion, and my Achilles was starting to bug me. My Achilles started bugging me around mile 70, and so I wanted, because the Topo Adventure 3s have a 5mm drop, I knew I would unload some of that pressure off my Achilles, and it ended up just being the best choice I made during the race, I think, other than the sock changes too. As far as my vest and bottles and all that stuff, I'll get to hydration too. My vest, I wore the Ultraspire Momentum 2. It has the water bottles in the back, but you can also carry them in the front if you needed to. And this vest worked out perfect. I had a backup vest I had a Nathan vest that had a bladder. And the reason I had a backup vest is because if it got super cold and I had to wear like a bigger, like my puffy jacket, I wanted a bladder with a straw so I wouldn't have to take my water bottles out. But that was the only reason I had thought about having a backup running vest, other than the Ultraspire. I mean, it's kind of a minimalist vest where you can't carry like a lot of heavy clothing, but I was able to like tuck my jacket or my windbreaker through the side loop, like through my armpit hole, and then I was also able to keep like a beanie and a pair of like backup lighter and stuff like that in the little pouch behind it. But as far as like carrying my gels and chews and stuff, I had plenty of storage with the pockets and the upfront pockets for my phone, and I was able to keep like an extra electrolyte and solid tab in there too if I needed it. So the Momentum 2 vest just worked out perfect. As far as hydration, Redmond Salt Relight all the way. Had I not changed flavors, I don't think my stomach ever would have messed up. And that was just me just making a dumb move. Like, part of me was telling me like don't change, but part of me just wanted that different flavor, and it ended up being too sweet. But I had been using the pina colada flavor the first 30 miles of the race, but I knew through training that once I started getting warm, I liked the unflavored flavor where it just tastes like salt water. And you might be thinking like salt water is hard to drink, but it's really not. It's actually kind of refreshing. when you start getting thirsty and stuff. And so that's what I was using the rest of the race until I made that decision to go back to the pina colada. From there on, I didn't use rim and salt relight for mile like 76 on. I just started taking salt pills. What else? Yeah, my pacing strategy was to one of the like little tricks I use for my watch, like settings that might help you, is I don't show my current pace on my watch. Like, I don't care how fast I'm running at the current time. I have my average pace. So for the whole race, I'm showing my average pace. So, you know, earlier on in the race, yes, that average is going to change pretty drastically. But as you get like around mile 30 and 40, especially, like, it takes a lot of time to change that average pace. So it doesn't for me, it doesn't make me want to push harder to run faster or worry about that. So for the first 60 miles, I was averaging a 13:30 pace. That was including like aid station stops and running and everything. And then from there on, it gradually crept up, where I think, if I remember right, I ended the race, so 104.3 miles with an average pace of like 15:58, which for me, I'm stoked on, you know, considering like how much climbing or hiking I had to do because of the rocks, and then what I was going through with my Achilles. So maybe that's a little tip for you, just to take the pressure off of like going fast in the moment and just worry about the whole thing, is, you know, change to average pace instead of like current pace. That's about it. I'll wear my Endurance Life hat to the finish, and just big shout outs to like everybody who helped me along this, especially you, Jessica. If you ever watch this, just thank you. Thanks for watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe, please. Visit myendurancelife.com. Check out everything that's on there that I offer, and just free running tips, all the way to like coaching, and just like a trial mastermind where I invite people like Taylor Spike into our community, so you guys get to talk and learn from them, other coaches, other athletes, nutritionists, physical therapists, stuff like that. Anything that I can think of to help you become a better ultra runner, I'm bringing into that Tron Ultra Running Mastermind. So again, if you're watching on Facebook or Instagram, like, consider following on one of the other platforms, YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or whatever. Everything's linked below, including the people I mentioned and the products. Thanks again for watching, and remember, this is My Endurance Life, and rethink possible. You can go so much further than you give yourself credit for.